Hello, my name is Jay Carpenter. I'm founder of StarChain and Star Camps, and it is 7 p.m. on Tuesday, September the 17th, 2024. This is our weekly community session on Zoom, and we're going to talk a little bit about the updates, what's happened since last week, and talk in general about the path forward and where we're going with this and what what there is to do. So um, I'm going to go ahead and do a little screen share and do a little demo. And I sent out a demonstration yesterday. It was it could be definitely could be improved, but things are getting better here. So bear with me. so so this is StarChain, and I will add the Stellar account, where the StarChain NFTs are being minted that contain the links to the chain. And basically, if we do that, we get to this page. And if we scroll down a little bit, you can see all the transactions that have been happening on the Stellar blockchain uh, related to StarChain. And if we click on this, manage data, we can see here's the account information, here's StarChain right here. And then we can see this base 64 code that we can then throw into this decoder like this. Whoops, that's the wrong one. Let's go back. That's something else that I minted. So yeah, this, let's see, let's go to the 16th. So if we scroll down to September the 16th, like right here, here's the managed data for StarChain. Click on that. This is the base 64 code. Throw it into the decoder. And then we go down and hit
Hello, Jay. How are
code
you?
here. Hey, Serge, how are you?
Doing
I'm doing
good. Thank you.
good. Glad you could join. I'm doing a little demo. Hiroyuki is on from Japan. And
Hello, Haryuki.
so, so I just pulled up the Stellar blockchain. I went into an NFT that was minted yesterday, and I've got the base 64 code in this decoder. I'm going to decode it, and then we got to scroll down. And here is the bit.ly that we can now copy and throw into the browser.
Now, is
And
that a value that you stored previously, that URL?
the URL is a bit.ly shortener of the of the this is the bit.ly shortener is a shortener for this URL, which
Oh, got it.
includes an IPFS content ID. So this part is the IPFS content ID, and I'm just using the Pinata gateway in order to uh, pull up the chain, the StarChain. So I've been basically creating a link each day around just before 2 p.m. Pacific time. So this was the like zero link, which on the first day it was 15 zeros and then 64 zeros. And then the second day it comprised, I actually built a full build out of the zero chain. and then did this is a SHA-256 hash, and that's I went into a little depth yesterday on how you can get these various hashes and the links and all that sort of thing. But this, on like the, I don't know, third day or so, I put in my actual cell phone number. So this, well, it's not my cell phone number. It is a link, a StarChain link, but I have to have the the telephone number that matches this link in order to be able to populate this StarChain link with a with data, with public keys, basically. So anyway, you can follow the progress of this, Serge. Hiroyuki has been diligently following it on the Discord, but you can follow each one of these steps on a day-to-day basis via the Discord under a channel that we've created for the daily Stellar posts. So anyway, and then this is a hash after the what I call my standard link, which is it's my standard link because it's associated. It's not associated, but I have to have, if there's any kind of telephone number that might conflict with one of these StarChain links, I have to prove that I control that underlying telephone number so that there's no collisions in the operation of this as things move on. So anyway, that's just kind of a quick review of where this is at, but it is on the Stellar blockchain and on the live net or main net. So anyway, any questions at this point?
I guess one of the questions I have is when do you think this could reach automation, and what are some of the requirements for developing this system to create what you're doing manually right now to further automate it, right? Because I did see some identifiers in those that you would need to either split the data, right? I think I saw some asterisks in the data,
Right. Mm-hmm.
right? So I'm just wondering where the automation goes into the application that you're envisioning. And I did watch the video. I followed some of the steps that you took, and some of the decoding can be obviously automated. As you know, the mechanism is there. All we need to do is obviously figure out which pieces are driving the application, and where the data will be stored is in the Stellar network, right? So all of this will be done through URLs. Is that how you're envisioning it?
Well, both this, it will be the non-fungible tokens will be on the Stellar network, and with a pointer to an IPFS content ID, and then the bulk of the information will be stored on IPFS, or it could be stored other places. So yes, there's a dance of URLs and content IDs and hashing, and it's a pretty involved process. And I've made a checklist of the steps to go through to create this. I do have a few Node.js files in order to create the full list of the links that are associated with a particular StarChain link. I was calling them camps and campsites. So you can think of the overall link The StarChain link is a camp, and then there's campsites, and I've got that automated. In terms of the overall automation, in order to put this on to create an NFT on the Stellar blockchain, yeah, that's definitely has to be done. This doing it by hand is um, not gonna work very long. There'll be mistakes and so forth. That, as far as I know, can be done. It's just a matter of building out the software in either JavaScript or Rust. And I believe Hiroyuki is studying Rust, and I know there's some others that are in the Discord that are, have their arms around how to uh, build using the Soraban smart contracts and so forth. So I don't know how long it's going to take. A lot of this, Serge, is me getting basically proving out the concept and making sure that it works. And so far, I'm really, really happy with how it is working. And I haven't gone into detail on, the underlying files that contain like the public key and the private key and, the full list of links that are associated with each, um, sort of root StarChain link. So all of that's kind of evolving, but what I can tell you is that I'm really happy with the way it is unfolding, coming together, and it's working the way I had envisioned it to work. Do you have any questions about that?
No, I think what I want to know is there any databases involved?
No, no databases. The objective of this is to keep it as minimalistic as possible. No code, no databases, simply um, a directory, if you will, or a registry of the ID and or the link and a hash that is sort of the first breadcrumb to take you to other hashes, other databases, or other files and so forth. But no, the idea that I have for this is that the star chain itself has no moving parts whatsoever. It's it's um, it's like basically DNS, where you've got a IP address paired with a domain, and those are for the most part pretty static until you change them. Um, does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think where, as a user, I would have a unique value that's associated to me that the start chain uses. So sort of like how you mentioned that you've provided your phone number in that in the values, right? So I wanted to see if there was a value that would associate it to my record, for instance.
Yeah, I assert there is value, and I'm seeing more value as I'm starting to play with this. And again, it's not the link itself is not my phone number because it's got 4 extra digits, and it's got whole from 4 zeros to 4 9s. The value is in the having that identifier paired with the hash of a public key. In fact, you know a bunch of potentially a bunch of public keys. So it's sort of like unlocking the door. And once you get into the room, then you can do whatever you want. You can create databases. Um, you can store data. You can manipulate data, you can do communications, video, audio, whatever you want to do. But having the access to that public key. So if I want to get into Hiroyuki's world, I want to be sure that I've got his public key. And that's a big part of the value proposition here. I want to be sure that I'm talking to Hiroyuki. And then once we do sort of like like a TLS without TLS, by the way, then all of a sudden the whole world opens up to us. So all the intelligence, all the data and everything else happens on the endpoints, not in the middle. What do you hear out of that?
I'm trying to envision it. Again, I have to see your vision on this to be able to fully grasp the entire big picture. So if you have my public key, what does that do in this case? Let's say I have a public key and there would be what, stellar or lumens associated to it? What would be what would my public key represent in this case?
So the public key just allows me to take your public key and put it into some sort of interface like PGP tool, and then start to create messages that are either encrypted or not encrypted. And also when I have your public key, I can send you a message with your public key. If you decrypt it and send me a message back that's encrypted, and I can successfully decrypt it, then all of a sudden we know we've got a trustworthy connection, or at least a trustworthy interaction going, because it's not really a connection. We could be posting encrypted blobs in the Wall Street Journal if we wanted to, and still having a private conversation. Or we could send it via text message, or we could send it via Starlink or whatever. So I know it's a little hard to get your arms around it at this point. And yesterday's video was an attempt to try to demonstrate some of that by, pulling a public key off of, that was initially searched via the Stellar blockchain, getting that public key with the assurance of the Stellar blockchain, and then putting that public key in whatever tool I want, PGP tool, whatever, and then doing an encrypted message, and then sending that encrypted message blob to somebody like Hiroyuki or Serge or both of you. And then you can take that encrypted message, because it was encrypted with your respective public keys, and you can decrypt it. And you can do whatever you want with it. You can read it, you can throw it away, you can, whatever your imagination can come up with. So there's a whole bunch of advantages to this that I see. Privacy, security, a whole range of protocols that could be used to transmit or post or deliver these messages. So I don't totally know, but the idea is to keep it as simple as possible, as minimalistic as possible. So, and I haven't gone through, some of the governance, some of the, how often does this occur? How do you submit a change to it? All those sort of dynamics. But there is much, much more behind this than what you're seeing at this point. But the answer to your question is, if at all possible, and having played with this for going on a week now, on the live Stellar network, I think that some really cool stuff can be done with this very minimalistic um, directory or registry, if you will, or listing of, you know, a an easier, a more palatable identifier. And right now, you're only seeing the machine-friendly side of the identifiers. There are like human-friendly identifiers, but having this identifier directing you to the hash of a public key coming from a trusted ecosystem like StarChain, all I can say is so far, I've been very heartened by how this has played out. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. It sounds promising. What do you think, Hiroyuki? Do you have any thoughts? Maybe he's on mute, I think.
He's on mute. He's coming on. Go ahead, Hiroyuki.
I don't have any questions right now.
Okay.
Okay. Now, at some point, when hopefully in the future we'll get to meet in person, Jay, I want to show you some database designs that I had done previously with the public and the private keys associated to an application that I was working on in the past, where these identifiers were actually tied to telephone numbers that were associated to user accounts, and I was actually storing the keys for each user account, and with the communication that was happening through text messaging, I didn't go as far as doing the encryption piece, but it was very well, it could have been actually implemented the way that you're describing in this case. But I had to store these values in the database, associate them to an actual telephone number that was tied to a specific user's account. It wasn't actually a cell phone uh, that was, it wasn't tied to a cell phone. It was a text messaging phone number with even a voice phone number that you could basically, you buy a block of phone numbers and you can then associate each phone number to a user and then drive the messages through the text messaging, where even if I sent you the message, it could come as a very cryptic message, obviously. But if you were my friend on that network, you had my public key, and the handshake was to be done in that same form of description that you gave, to be able for you to see that message. But I had to store these values, and where I'm not uh, following is how, if you gave me your public key, how do I keep track of all of the public keys of all of my friends, let's say, that were to give me a public key,
Yeah, this
right?
is how. So, so first of all, this is the very beginning of the chain, basically. But here's how you start to look up. Well, here's how you start to look up the data that I think you're talking about. Because I assume when you built yours, Serge, you didn't have a blockchain that you were interacting with. Is that correct?
Yeah, I did not. I had to use just generation of those keys for public and private. Yeah, I had
Right.
to.
And that's a big piece, is having this, you know, blockchain that adds up dimensions of trust and assurity. But and unfortunately, I'm having a hard time. Okay, I can move this. So, you know, this is the StarChain. This is the key link that's a base 64 encoded link. This is is on the blockchain for the 16th. Now, let me copy this Stellar account. Now, if we go back, and I'm going to look up the link for today, the 17th, and you can get all this information on the Discord, but so I'm pretty sure this is the one. Yeah, this is the 17th. Yeah, and that's the right timestamp. But now if I click on this and I copy this base 64 and make sure that I copy it. So, and I bring it over to and obviously all this can be automated. And I throw this in here, and I want to make sure that there's no conflict with this. So I'll erase this. I'll decode it and move down. And that gives me a different bit.ly link. I'm going to, well, I'll leave this open just so we can compare the two. But so this is the StarChain from the 16th, and you can see where it ends here. And this is today's, and you can see that there's a new link that's been added to the end of the chain. In fact, it's the very last possible link from 15 zeros to 15 nines. That's the maximum size of this. But because these 15 nines have not occurred before in the chain, it has 64 zeros for the hash area to signal that, okay, this is a brand new entry. But to answer your question, so let's assume that Hiroyuki is his StarChain link is 15 zeros. And let's assume that Serge's StarChain link is 15 nines. And then let's assume that Jay's StarChain link is the 15 digits you see in front of you. So this gives you an identifier for this. And once you have this hash, and I went into it a little bit in the video, you can go to a different location, let's say on IPFS or wherever, and then you can start to pull data, and as long as it matches that hash, you have the data that is authentic for this particular ID. And this could be a machine, it could be a human, it could be whatever you want. This happens to be what I'll call my standard link, and I call it a standard because all of us that have a cell phone could create a StarChain link like right today without embracing any kind of new identifier. So we would create a 15-digit identifier, the first 11 of which would pair with our phone number, and then we would create the data that's represented by this SHA-256 hash. So I don't know, Serge, if that sheds a little light on this, but can you see how the data and the identity are starting to dance together? And can you see how that, because you can pull this now off the Stellar blockchain, there's a higher degree of assurance that you're connecting with the person or machine or whatever you're interested in connecting with, there's a higher degree of assurance. And part of that assurance is that it's gone through a set of, let's say, authentication steps that are provided by StarChain.
Yes, that makes it a little bit more clear. Thank you.
Okay, good. All right. Well, I think we covered some pretty good ground on this. Serge, I'm really excited that you've already, worked in this realm, or at least a related realm, with your text messaging service. So I think there could be some, really rich collaboration here and opportunities. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think so. And I think I'd be happy to show you some of the schemas that I've worked on that I was working with that system. So I think if we can look at that together one day, I would definitely appreciate that. Then that would make me feel more confident about where this can go, actually, even with the usage of a system like that, where you could encrypt messages and send to using the blockchain and using the system.
And it's well beyond encryption. This touches upon identity, and I've done significant work in the realm of identity. In fact, I did a session that's in the documentation on the Discord at DWebCamp, and the title was Universal Unified Identity and State. So I think this can also be a very interesting application for network state as well as identity. So we're kind of at the end of our time. Any other questions or final thoughts, comments?
I think I'm good. Do you plan on having any working sessions at all, Jay?
Well, there's a possibility, Serge, that I'll be traveling next week and we might be able to connect in person if you're interested in meeting in person. If you're suggesting like a Zoom session or whatever, we could start to experiment with that. I do have a time scheduled in San Francisco for in-person next week. However, I'm not sure that's going to happen. But yes, I do want to have working sessions, because you can do a lot more in a working session. If we have to do it virtually, we'll do it virtually. But there's just a little bit more that I need to do, I think, before this can really be opened up to the community that's forming in the Discord. And there's other folks from DWebCamp and elsewhere that are interested in this. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
But the important thing is that since last Thursday or Friday, there's actual entries into the mainnet Stellar blockchain that aren't going to go away. It's not testnet. These are permanent, and it's the starting point. It's the foothold for this to start to be built upon. So
sounds very exciting.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you for your feedback, Serge. I appreciate it. And Hiroyuki, I appreciate your participation. Hiroyuki's been incredible in building the Discord, and he's excited about it, and other people are getting excited about this as well. So, yeah.
Yes, thank you, Hiroyuki. And I've been going through some of the links that you provided. I will keep looking at them. I will look at the videos again, and if you don't mind, I'll ask you questions.
Absolutely. That's what the Discord is for. And I'm available via phone or Zoom or whatever. I mean, there's nothing, this is all brand new. So it's up for us to create. But the idea, Serge, is to have a minimalistic centerpiece and then have all the creativity happen on the endpoints so that you can use your databases that you've got experience with in the past, but we're not in a position where we've got to choose a particular database to run the whole thing, a whole middle piece with. So hopefully that makes some sense.
Yes, thank you.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for your participation. Have a good evening. And yeah, more to come.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.